Today, we are diving deep into a system of justice that's been around for centuries. It's a system powerful enough to build nations and settle neighborhood arguments, but it's also smack in the middle of a huge human rights debate. We are talking about the jirga.
But before we get into all that, let me ask you something. What does justice even look like without all the stuff we're used to? Judges in black robes, official courtrooms, the whole state-run system. Well, for millions of people, that's not some philosophical question. The answer is very real. It's a group of elders sitting together in a circle.
All right, so let's get down to the basics. What exactly is a jirga? Well, at its core, it's pretty straightforward. An assembly of leaders making decisions together, by consensus.
So a jirga is a traditional council, and it's absolutely central to Pashtun culture, mainly in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now, the goal here isn't what you might expect from a court. There's no single judge handing down a guilty or not guilty verdict. The entire point is to reach a consensus, a decision that everyone in the group can agree on. And they do this based on Pashtunwali, which is the traditional Pashtun social and ethical code. You see, it's a system built on community agreement, not on the authority of the state. And get this, the name itself actually gives us a huge clue about how it works. The word jirga is believed to come from a Mongolian word that means circle. And that makes perfect sense because the elders literally sit in a circle when they debate. It's a symbol of equality among them and their collective, all-around approach to figuring things out. Now, jirgas are not just for small-town squabbles. No way. In its most powerful form, which is called the Loya Jirga, or Great Council, this institution has literally shaped the destiny of an entire country. I mean, the power of the Loya Jirga throughout Afghan history is just incredible. Take 1747. A Loya Jirga gets together and doesn't just pick some leader, they elect Ahmad Shah Durrani. And in doing that, they found the modern state of Afghanistan. Wild, right? Then you jump ahead to 1964, and it's a Loya Jirga that approves a brand new constitution. And maybe most crucially, in 2002, right after the fall of the Taliban, the whole world looked to this ancient tradition to pull the nation back from the brink and form a new government. So that's the epic nation-building scale. But for most people, the jirga works on a much more personal level. It's the go-to system for sorting out everyday conflicts in the community. So how does it actually play out? Well, it's a pretty clear process. First, the two people with the dispute have to agree on a neutral mediator, someone they both trust. Then that mediator puts the jirga together and they make sure to include elders and supporters from both sides so it feels fair. Then they talk, and talk, and talk. Deliberations can take days, but once they reach a unanimous decision, the mediator announces it, and this part is absolutely crucial. That decision is binding. It carries the weight of law within that community. Okay, but this is where things get really complicated and where we get to the heart of the controversy today. This ancient system of justice often runs parallel to the official laws of the country, and sometimes it's in direct opposition to them.
And this slide really lays out the two sides of the coin. In theory, the ideal is kind of beautiful, right? Quick, community-based justice that's all about restoring harmony. But the reality? Well, the reality can be incredibly dark. Critics point to horrific human rights abuses, especially against women. Jirgas have handed down sentences that include forcing women into marriage to settle a debt or a feud. They essentially act as a whole separate legal system that totally ignores the authority of the state.
And listen, this isn't just criticism coming from outsiders. This is a big deal. In 2019, Pakistan's own Supreme Court said that when jirgas step in on criminal cases, what they're doing violates not only the country's constitution, but also its international human rights commitments. That's a huge statement.
And to be really specific, the courts have tried to outlaw rulings that are just unbelievably brutal. Wani, or swara, is the practice of giving away a girl, often a child, in marriage to an enemy family to end a dispute. Karokari is when a man and woman are declared black spots on the family's honor, which is basically a death sentence. And even though a high court in one province banned jirgas way back in 2004, these practices are still happening. It just shows you how deep the cultural roots of these councils really are.
But believe it or not, the story doesn't stop there. The jirga isn't some fossil from the past. It is alive, and it's evolving and adapting, for better and for worse, right now in the 21st century.
And here's a fascinating twist. The jirga tradition is now being used to fight for the very rights it has so often trampled on. In Pakistan, a group of women formed the Quasi-legal Jirga, which means the Sisters' Council. It's an all-female jirga created specifically to give women a path to justice that they're so often denied in the traditional male-only system. It's an amazing example of how a tradition can be reinvented from the inside.
The jirga has also become a major stage for modern politics. A big Pashtun National Jirga in 2022 wasn't just talking about local disputes. They were making huge political demands, things like calling for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, wanting control over their own natural resources, and rejecting the border fence on the Durand line. This shows the jirga is still a vital way for people to take collective action on massive national and international issues.
So that brings us to the final question, doesn't it? The jirga is a system that's fast, people can access it, and it's woven into the very fabric of the community. But at the same time, it can operate completely outside the rule of law and crush fundamental human rights. So, in a world of modern nations and international law, what's the future for a system of traditional justice like this? Does it need to be abolished, or can it be reformed? That's the messy, complicated reality that jirga is facing right now.